Going. Please welcome Graham Spence, Block 3.
Hey guys.
Yeah.
So, so Graham, classic, first the first of the first two beers that you did, King Street Saison. Tell us a little bit about that. We're starting with that tonight.
Yeah. So that's the first one we'll try. So, the recipe's changed. Oh, I was holding it down, but I thought I was holding it up. Recipes changed, quite a bit over time. It's just, when we first started, we kind of looked and thought like, no one's really doing a kind of Belgian style saison, and it was something that we'd try. I'd been to Belgium myself, and a couple of other guys had been, and they were big fans of that kind of style. And to me, it's just like it's light, refreshing. But it's got a little bit of extra flavor to it. Like you get it's a little bit of spice. It's really dry. Got some fruity characters as well.
Now that dryness is not typical of a Belgian saison, is it?
It depends. Like some of them, you can get some that are like a saison du Pont would be pretty dry, but you can get some that do err on the sweeter side. And to be honest, some of that might be because of aging and just maybe oxidation and the, that kind of deteriorates it, or you could say deteriorate or improves it and gives it a different flavor. Right?
Well, yeah, because if you sit it for a long time, you definitely lose that back end sour faster.
Yeah.
So.
This is like the flagship, the one we started with, and we pretty much we haven't really stopped making it. We almost did briefly for a bit there, but
well, that is all part of that process of maturing in your business.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I'm not sure if I mentioned it last time at the beginning of this COVID thing. That was one of the beers that we were looking at and being like, okay, is it something that it just wasn't moving as quickly as other stuff, and we thought, is it dead? Is it like, do we need to give it a break? And then now we can't keep it on the shelves, and it doesn't, like, nothing's changed.
So Jen has a great question. You say the recipes change. How has it changed over time?
Yeah, to be honest, all our recipes are always kind of slightly changing, just tweaking a little bit. This one is probably just because we've had it for 7 years now. The recipe has changed. We've used a few different yeast strains in it, and just different malt bills as well. But we're doing sometimes we're not going to go drastically and turn this into a big, totally different beer. It's done casually over a little bit of time there, just to kind of get it where we wanted it at that point.
Yeah, there was only one point I recall in the whole 15 years that we were doing craft beer at Kickoff, where there was a drastic change in certain beers, and that was the year there was a huge shortage of hops.
Oh yeah.
And the big guys bought everything up, and then all of a sudden, all the craft brewers are scrambling to find a hop.
Mm-hmm.
And but normally, yes, you're right. Just progressively small changes over time.
For sure, yeah. And I think, I would say you could look at any brewery, and that's happened for most beers that they're producing. People's taste changes or change, and it's just kind of a natural evolution of a product, I think.
Yeah. Now, I mentioned last night when we chatted that I trolled you online. I took a look at what was available. So I have some questions because I'm curious. What was the motivation behind opening a brewery?
The motivation, I think so. I'll kind of give you my my kind of craft beer story, if you will. So it started for me. I went to university out at Acadia, in beautiful Wolfville, Nova Scotia. And while I was there, I think that the kind of gateway beer for me was the St. Ambrose apricot wheat. And I tried this and I was like, what's this? Like, it was crazy. And it was like it was totally different than, the Keiths or the Canadian or Oland's that you were getting out there. And then from there, it was just kind of like, they had Garrison, they had Propeller. What's the one in New Brunswick? I'm forgetting. Pump House.
Yeah.
They're blueberry wheat. And then, so it was just kind of trying those. And then when I moved back home after school, and I kind of continued just wanting to try different beers. And, from that, some of the guys that I started the brewery with, we all worked together at this office and at an accounting firm in uptown. And, they'd see me whenever we went out for drinks that I wouldn't be ordering the Coors Light or Bud Light. I'd be getting something different. And, they started trying that too. And then we kind of started just, I think it was more of an excuse for us to get together. It was just like, hey, let's get over or go over to someone's house. And then, each time it was basically a different, we would pick a different style and everyone had to bring a beer of that style. And it kind of spawned from that, really.
Yeah. And then you and three friends start Block 3.
Yeah. So
when did that first conversation sort of evolve to from having a conversation to going, let's build a brewery?
Yeah. So one of the guys that kind of came into this group, he was a friend of one of our other guys. He was actually a brewer at Wellington. And, so he talked about how he wanted to kind of do his own thing. And, we were into trying beers. And so then, it was just like, could we do this, right? Like, you looked around and saw, like, I wish I knew the exact, like, if you look now, there's probably 350 breweries in Ontario. I'm hazarding a guess that there would have been less than 60 to 70 at that point when we started. And you looked around, and really in Waterloo, in this region, there wasn't really much, right? There was Grand River in Cambridge, Waterloo, if you want to consider them craft, in Kitchener-Waterloo, and again, Gold Crown, if you want to consider them craft. And really that's it, right?
Because you're right. There was less than 60 in the whole of Ontario.
So we looked and we're like, is this something we could do? And, being accountants, we kind of just did a business plan quickly, ran some numbers, and which were way wrong, by the way. And then, I was like, if we were to do it, maybe St. Jacobs would make sense. It's close to Kitchener-Waterloo. It's got tourists go there too, and kind of maybe the best of both worlds. And then, to be honest, it was 2 weeks after we had this, we were kind of having this conversation. One of the guys just called the township and asked if it was, we were just I can't believe no one opened there. And we asked them if there was any reason why that hadn't happened. And they said, we actually had the perfect spot for you. And a month later, we had a building.
Wow. That's a really fast turnover time.
Yeah, it kind of was just it kind of kicked us into gear. And so we had this building, and we're like, okay, what do, we need to get equipment. We need to, it went from 0 to 100 pretty quickly.
Yeah. I'm going to get to the questions on the board. I have one more to ask you along this line. That first year was quite a wild ride for you guys. You were in an enviable but also difficult situation of selling out all the time.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, what lesson or did you take away from that experience that first year?
I mean, it's tough. Like it's so like yeah. When you think about when we're starting, we're like, you know, you get 3,000 or 1,000-liter tank, right? And like, man, like 1,000 liters of beer that's a lot of beer, right? And so we had 3 of them to start, and we're like, oh, like how the hell are we going to sell 3,000 liters worth of beer? And, I mean, you don't know, right? And like
48 hours later.
yeah, I mean the first day we opened, we released the King Street, and that tank was gone. The next day we opened, and we had 1,000 liters of the Sugar Bush, and that was gone. And we're like, shit. And then I mean, it's not like you got to wait, right? It's a 2-week turnaround for the product at minimum. So yeah, took us a little while to get our stride there, and I think now you see a lot of breweries don't really have that. You know, maybe they right size their something, whether it's the time they're open or the, you know, what they have, right? They've seen enough other breweries do what happened to us. So I mean, and to be honest, you wouldn't really want, like, if I was to go back in that point there, and you know, you're 24-year-old, or I guess what old would I have been? 27. Let's go with that. And you know, you put all this money that you don't really have into this thing, and it's like, you where do you come up with the capital for that, right? To buy all these tanks. And so I mean, we've always played like don't push. We're not pushing growth. We're just kind of organic growth, I guess.
Yeah. There's a couple questions up on the board I need to ask.
All right.
David with an incredulous, you were in an accounting firm?
Yeah.
I'll deal with him later for you, okay?
I know.
Graham's curious, is that in the craft beer industry, is there like regional styles or similarities in a region?
Maybe 8 to 10 years ago, there might have been something like that. I don't think so.
Yeah.
But this day, I don't think so. I'd say no.
Well, you know, there's what you guys do. There's what Innocente does. And then, you know, move down the road to Counterpoint.
Yeah.
And then take a look at what Rob at Shortfinger's been doing. And he was the only one doing that for some time. And now I forgot the name of it, but there's another one open in the area that's doing something similar.
Yeah, Reverence Barrel Works, I think.
Yeah. But then when you get down to like Grand River and the guys down in that area, it's a completely different game. So.
Yeah.
And then, of course, ultimately, Graham was wondering if Timeless Materials used to be in that space that you're in now.
Yes. Oh, no, not Timeless Materials. Timeless Materials is at Northfield near Innocente. It was. They're still around in St. Jacobs. Actually, they moved to right near the train station, and I'm
drawing a blank too.
Yeah, it was exactly the same type of thing as Timeless Material. They go in and take
artifacts.
That's yes.
Artifacts. Yep. So all those architectural pieces.
Oh yeah, architectural pieces. They had doors, flooring. I thought it was them.
Yeah, it's basically anything like they, you know, those guys will bid on demolition jobs for places and sell the scrap pieces.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah. It's been over a year since Premier Ford tabled a bill to end the beer store monopoly. Is there any hope?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think conceptually, I think the beer store could be a good thing, and if it was operated as it was intended, when it opened, like it opened as a cooperative, and whatever it opened, but then slowly through consolidation, it's now become what it is and owned by, the two multinationals with Sleeman's owning 2%. But if you actually think about it and go back and see what it was, it makes so much sense. Like I think a lot of like the small breweries like us are, we're all driving around to the same LCBOs, the same restaurants, and we're really killing ourselves on logistics from a cost perspective. And an environmental perspective, but we're not really doing anything efficiently. So like, if you could get the beer store back to a cooperative model, I think it would be amazing. But I don't ever see that happening.
I want to be able to at least talk about all 4 beers that you picked for tonight.
Yep.
And I'm not sure anyone's ready to go to the Hollinger House, but could you sort of give us a taste profile on that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna finish my little bit here. Yeah, so it's really nice, easy drinking, like German lager. I'd say, it's got some like nice like grassy notes. It's got a little bit of bitterness, but not a ton. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, this is like, we call this beer flavored beer. Is so someone comes in and say, I want this. It's like, well, you want the Hollinger House. So we actually, I mean, we brewed that beer for our beer garden down the street. And we were thinking of that. We wanted to have something that, you could have a stein of, or like a liter, and kind of like, like that European style.
Yeah. Traditional German, clear, easy drinking beer.
Yeah. And I saw, actually, Graham, I saw your question there. Not to go, but just to go back to that other point. So there is like a couple operators out there, like a Cold House, or we use Prologics, which offer that kind of third-party logistics. But I mean, the beer store just has way more infrastructure to do that. So like, I think the problem is it's really, if you think of all the licensed establishments in Ontario, you're, just for LCBO, beer store, and grocery store, you're probably 600 grocery stores, 400 grocery stores, 600 LCBOs, and maybe an equal amount of beer stores. And that doesn't even include any licensed restaurant bars. And, to get there, like get to those places, it's for like an independent that's just like, it'd be so, it's hard, right? It's hard to do that.
So then it brings up an interesting point. How far do you ship, Graham?
So with the Prologics, like we can, like if you're like a LCBO beer store or whatever, well, not beer store, but LCBO grocery store or bar restaurant, we can ship province wide with them. And then we do have like our online store where you can. I think it's limited to shipping in Ontario, but if you send me an email, I would ship it anywhere. So.
That's true.
And it's me that answers all the emails. So.
So you talked about the Village Beer Garden and making the Hollinger House for it. So I have a question that's both Block 3 and the beer garden. COVID-19 has forced all of us to be very, very creative in how we do business.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious what is in store for Block 3 come fall and winter. And in converse of that, I'm also curious what's going to happen at the Village Beer Garden for fall and winter.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm really, I don't know. It's it's tough to predict. Obviously, no one would have predicted what kind of scenario we're in right now. But I'm thinking like my goal, for kind of going forward is to really kind of promote that local delivery. that if we can get people that are interested in trying or having or enjoying our beer that don't want, that don't make it up to us every weekend or maybe they come, 3 times a year, but they're buying stuff at the LCBO or they want to try something different, and we can deliver that to them. Like, I think that, to be honest, I think that's a great service, and I don't think I really like to push that and help and start growing that. So I don't see the bars and restaurants like our licensee game kind of coming back. It's, I mean, it's so crazy to me that, so like, all these guys are, the ones that are maybe doing okay and surviving right now throughout the summer with the patios, like once the colder weather hits, which, I mean, this weekend is supposed to be pretty chilly. What do you do, right? Like, people don't want to, they're not going to sit inside. And if they are, it's in at 50% capacity. So I think a lot of, even if there is no second wave or whatever, that is a second wave for them. They're going to get hit again. And I think it's going to really affect a bunch of places. And then, so back to the question there about the beer garden. I mean, we purchased that property. We had eyed it for years. It had been up on the market for 10 years, and we finally were like, okay, this is such an amazing patio. Our intention was kind of really only ever to run it seasonally. And then we've got a little bit of seating inside, so we did operate it in the winter there last year just to see how it would go. We're gonna kind of try a little bit this year as well. We've got a bunch of the like outdoor igloos that we're gonna give a go at. So see how that goes.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, we thought like there. So we've got the shade, like the trees covered it, and then so these are like 12, I think. Yeah, 12 by 12 igloos.
Yep.
So yeah, they're like they're clear plastic, like kind of ribbed inside. So yeah, we're gonna roll with it, I guess. So if you're ever looking for something cool to do, come check it out.
Well, that's interesting. I'm glad we talked about that. What do you see that's new and exciting happening in the craft beer industry right now?
New and exciting. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's this is kind of forced a lot of people to be creative and try different things. So like, I mean, I think the next one that we're gonna try, we kind of talked about last time. So people are on here. Like, I think so breweries are getting more creative with different products, and maybe they're I don't even know. To be honest, I don't know. That's a tough question.
Okay. I was just avoiding the Jen question, which would be, when you don't drink at Block 3, where do you usually go out to have a good time?
Well, you know where I would usually go, but that's not going to happen anymore. But
yeah, well, I know that.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I'll for me right now, like, it's probably usually just at home. I've got a 2.5-year-old and a 6-month-old, so yeah. so going out to the pub is not usually happening. So
I could totally appreciate that. With a 6-month-old and a 2.5-month or 2.5-year-old in the family.
Yeah,
you've got a lot of commitment there.
Oh yeah. I thought you guys would notice I was sweating before because we were just playing mini sticks down in the basement. So
That's great. You touched on it a little bit earlier, but I'm going to ask you if you could travel back in time, what would be the biggest single piece of advice you would give yourself in 2013, just before you started?
I think it would probably be just like maybe just maybe trust your judgment. I know like there's been I like to think that we've kind of grown and or evolved at like an organic base, but there's times where you're like, did we do the right thing, or you second guess yourself, and I think I'm not to toot our horn here, but I think we've done a pretty good job of brewing some really nice beers, and creating a nice like community environment at the brewery. So.
And then I always said to people, Block 3 is the consistent microbrew in their beers.
Yeah.
You can sort of blindfold me and put the beer in front of me, and I'd be like, that's Graham. It's the guys at Block 3 right there. But you have a consistency, even though, and that was a question we talked about last night, the number of beers that you guys have done since 2013.
Yeah, I mean, I meant to go look it up, but I forgot to. But it's got, like we said, I think we said it's got to be up in the 150, 200 range.
Pretty, like I said, I was on Ask Cask and it was over 100. So
yeah,
and I did not get all of them on Ask Cask. So it just
No.
think the accomplishment of doing that across a 7-year period.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's kind of
willingness to take those risks. So, how do you guys decide when you're going to do a new beer? Like, what's that creative process?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just like sometimes it's just like inspiration. We try a beer or some other flavor, and then kind of go from there. So, like, I mean, our fickle mistress. So Kevin and I were out in Vancouver at just kind of touring around, and we stopped in at Four Winds, and they had their and I'm gonna draw a blank on the name, but it was their dry hop kettle sour, and we drank this and we're like, oh my goodness, this is crazy. Like, it's really nice, really like really different, really refreshing. And so when we came back, that was the code name for Fickle Mistress. Was like, we tried to make it was Nectaris. That's the name of the beer. So it's like we tried to make Nectaris, like something like that. And even like the we have a lot of fun with like the Fickle Mistress and that. So we do a bunch of different fruited versions. So the last one we had was a peach green tea, which is modeled after like the Buddha's blend from David's Tea that we drink at the brewery. We've got another one coming out, like a honey tangerine, which we're kind of modeling after like a old fashioned, right? So like kind of just cool different things like that kind of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Terry and Emma point out 266 beers on Untapped.
Oh, wow. Some of those would be pilots or like 30 liters. So. But that's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's way more than we thought.
Yeah. No way it's over 200.
I'd be inclined to go with Untapped. They're pretty consistent about having all of the stuff there.
Yeah, I mean,
you're right. There's one-offs there and samples and probably a few jokes, but there'd be over 200.
Yeah, definitely over 200. Yeah, there'd be some like that would need to be merged and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, one of the big things about Ask Cask was it was not social, so you wouldn't get those duplicates. And it was supposed to be curated, but I never wanted to sell it because I had a day job. So
Yeah. So Graham's got a granular question. How did the town of St. Jacobs, and by extension the region, influence the flavor bin for Lot 3?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I mean, obviously, like the second beer we released was the Sugar Bush Brown Ale, and that, I mean, that's clearly a tie into the township there, where, you know, Elmira hosts the Maple Syrup Festival, and that definitely kind of influenced that beer there. In terms of other ones, I mean, it's like we I don't even know. Like, I don't think there's, you know, like anything else like as, you know, direct as that it's been, you know, we need to do this. I mean, the Hollinger Helles, like, I mean, in terms of naming that and the, you know, the style, like, I mean, St. Jacobs used to be called Jakobstädel, right? So it was an old German Mennonite settlement, and
yeah,
the house that the Village Beer Garden what's called it was owned by the Hollinger family, which is the family that started started Home Hardware, right? So we kind of, our ingredients unique by region. Yeah. Oh, so yeah. I mean, yeah. Okay. Yeah. There. I mean, definitely water. You know, we in our area we actually have a really good water to brew stouts and porters. But yeah, I mean, that, like, it's kind of a, you know, maybe not a style that we enjoy as much as others. So you probably don't see too many of them come out from us. But I think when we do them, they are pretty good.
Yeah, they are. They're excellent. We talked about that last night.
Yeah.
Derek was wondering if there's any potential collabs with other breweries coming up.
Yeah, we've got a few actually in barrel and in like a couple longer term ones. So in the next week or two, or 2 or 3 weeks, we've got a barrel aged saison with Blind Man, which is a brewery in Alberta. So they came down and we brewed that with them. I think it's like, I forget if it's like a buckwheat saison or something like that. We also have one we're doing with Two Crows Brewing. We did a virtual collab like a month or two, so we've got that in one of our like aging tanks right now. Yeah, I mean, and I think we're doing a blending project with Blood Brothers as well. So we did a big barrel tasting a couple weeks ago. So we're gonna kind of blend some of our barrels with some of their barrels and have a few different releases out of that. So
I'm going to get to Brian and Ed's question in a minute. Tell me about the lemon lime seltzer.
Yeah, so I think I mean, I know a few of you guys were on last time, so we kind of talked about these. So it actually worked out well that we just had these. So I don't know if any of you guys have tried them yet. No? All right. Well, let's go. Yeah, so I mean, like I mentioned last time, I mentioned that this is kind of there's a bunch of places doing this. We don't have a distillery or distillery license, so in order for us to do something like this, it has to be malt based. So 51% of the fermentable sugars have to come from malt. So, or the majority of that. So if you actually pour it into your glass, it does actually kind of have that yellow tint, like the beer color to it. the rest of the fermentable is actually made up of dextrose, and then it's flavored with extracts. So, I mean, not for me. I would prefer just to drink a beer, but I can see the people that maybe, we get everyday people that come in and say, I don't like beer. I don't like the taste of beer. So I can see the need or the desire for something like this. For us, it was just kind of something to try to see if we could do something. And yeah, I mean, I think it tastes fine for what it is. I would probably myself personally drink the Helles over this, but that's just me. I mean, to be honest, I'm actually interested in hearing what other people think about this, like after having had it.
My first impression was I had a guy that used to come into the bar that was on Waterloo Rugby, and he always drank Keats with ginger ale. And I'm not, this doesn't remind me of Keats with ginger ale, but it's the idea of a shandy where you've got fizz from a carbonated beverage on top of a beer.
Yeah. I mean, essentially, you could think that for this version of that, you could probably think of it like that because, we would have brewed a beer, really. And then carbonated sugar water after that. So.
Yeah. No, and I get the Patio, not a beer. I mean, I get this on a hot, sunny day, ice cold. You wanted something light and easy, this would be the way to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, there's different, obviously, like I know Willibald out in Ayr they've got theirs, but theirs are spirit based. Yeah. So, I mean, and I'm not like, I find ours, it just has a bit more body than theirs.
Yeah.
Like, or other spirit based ones that I've tried. Right. You're just feeling like you're drinking like nothing. Whereas at least this, I think, you do still get that malt flavor. So it has that a little bit more body than something like that. But yeah, I mean, I think people do seem to enjoy it. But
I definitely could, like I said, I could drink that on a hot day, no problem.
For sure.
Get it back to a couple questions further back. Brian was wondering what Belgian beers influenced your decisions to start with King Street Saison.
Yeah, so I was on I graduated university and my buddy and I went backpacking through Europe, do like a 5-week thing, and we turned up in Brussels, and it happened to be the Belgian Beer Week or Belgian Beer Show, and in the main square there was just a giant beer festival. So we did not leave that square for the 3 days that we were there. And so, I mean, I could go through like all the, like the triple Carmelite, I mean, it was crazy. Like we went there and you could get West Veteran, a glass of West Veteran for €2.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, so it was insane. It was insane. So like we were just there all day, and just going to the different places around there, and I think the beer is there. You go from, we actually went to Munich and we went to the Hofbrauhaus and some of the beer gardens there. And then you go from that to Belgium, and it's like, boom, right? Like what's happening here? And I was kind of really, I think we were like really into, the different flavors that you're like. It's the only place you can really kind of find those similar flavors is probably here in Quebec, right? I think a lot of Quebec breweries follow that that Belgian kind of style, or at least they did, right? Like if you're, there's some now. There's obviously now that more breweries there that are North American IPA focused or lagers, but if you go back, there's a bunch that do really nice Belgian styles. And yeah, I mean, I think that's what it was. We were just like, how do we differentiate ourselves? And we're like, well, the Saison DuPont is amazing. Could we do some, like, obviously we can't do the same thing here, but like, could we do something that is approachable, but yet has, flavor? And I think I always thought, like, for a while there, that, Ontario breweries were, I'm not trying to smash any brewery here, but, you'd start off and you'd have a Kolsch or blonde ale. You'd have your stout or porter, and then your Ontario pale ale. And your Kolsch or blonde ale, they really wanted to be a lager, but you knew that the lagers took 6 weeks, and the Kolsch and blonde ale took 2 weeks. So you're going to do the Kolsch and blonde ale because you can turn your tank around faster. And I think, so for us, it was just like, we wanted to just do something different.
Yeah. Ed takes an offshoot on that. Have you ever shot for a Trappist style?
Yeah, I mean, we do actually, like, for a while there, we were doing almost like strictly that kind of style.
Yep.
And so, like, every year we still, I saw someone mention earlier that they bought the Beauty and the Belgian before at the beginning of this. So, when we were trying to kind of realign stuff, we were just kind of trying to make stuff easier in terms of our yeast management, just to get, like, we were running 4 or 5 yeast strains in the back for different stuff, and it didn't quite make sense. So, so we're actually we thought about it in terms of, like, kind of when those styles are, more readily consumed. And so I think starting in the fall, we're bringing back the Belgian yeast strain. So you'll be seeing more Beauty in the Belgian back. But we're going to be, we'll get our Beauty in the Belgian, we'll get our single, we'll get our quad, we'll get our double, our triple. So we'll kind of rotate through those things there. So.
Okay. I'm just catching up on the stream of comments about Brussels and Bruges and Trappist Beers. And then, according to On Tap from Derek, you made 13 Trappist Beers.
There we go.
And I would have, my brain was going, you've done at least 8 or 9 that I remember having on at kickoff. So.
Yeah, I can remember a bunch that we've,
yep. Yeah, you were cranking them out almost every 6 months. You were bringing one out.
Yeah. So, I mean, kind of from October to March, that's kind of going to be our Trappist season, if you will. So yeah, if that styles you're into, like, I think, I think make really nice ones. But yeah.
Before I move on to the next set of questions, let's talk a little bit about So Long Summer.
Yeah. So, I mean, actually, if we're talking about this one, this is and I know actually from talking yesterday, one of the future questions that you haven't asked yet is, how do we name beers?
That's exactly, yes.
So this is a name that I had come up with 4 or 5 years ago. So it is actually on tap, but it is a completely different beer than what it was then. To be honest, it's just the same name, because naming beers is the hardest thing ever.
Yeah, that's why I asked that question.
Yeah. So
And you said you had a unique system for a while.
yeah, for a while. I mean, you would have noticed a lot of one word beers coming out of Block 3, and it was because I found a website called 1001 Fancy English Words, and we would just scroll through that list and pick out words from there. So Oasis, Dawn, what do we have there? Constellation, Mauve. Basically, anyone that's one single word, that probably came from that list.
That's great. I really do. That's great. So what's unique about this version of So Long Summer?
Yeah, so this one is I think it's nice. It's got like really nice like grapefruit, like fruitiness to it, but still some bitterness to it. I think it's, to be honest, I think it's just a nice beer. It's kind of, it melts together nicely. It's not just like a single note this and then that's it. I think it you get different flavors as you drink it. And to be honest, it's probably between this and the Hellas, those would be what I would drink on tap right now. So, and maybe the Citronella, which just came out yesterday, but.
Okay. I have a couple more questions for you.
Yeah, I'm all ears.
But I need to go back. Ed was curious about, do you ever publish the ingredient list on your seltzer?
So we don't put the ingredients on the list on our label, and I mean for the majority of the stuff, it is just it's water, hops, malt, yeast. The recently the Canadian food, I think it's CFIA or whatever, they came up with these new rules. So if you put beer, you don't have to put ingredients on there, but if you do, then you're now scrutinized and you're subject to, and like further. So it's like, why would you?
Yeah, you're subject to a whole new set of regulations the second you publish.
Yeah, I mean when you think it's like classic government
yeah.
like just create it, try a make work project. It's insane. So
well, it's an interesting point, like if you don't put a list of ingredients on, we don't care, but the second you put them on, we're going to inspect you.
Yeah, and but you don't have to. But like I mean, most foods have to put it on. So
yeah,
if you don't have to, to honestly answer your question, Ed, like if you ever had a question about it, I would 100%, I would send you the recipe. Like that's.
Yeah.
Totally appreciate it. I mean, the background of that is, radlers are a thing, right?
For sure, yeah.
And say some radlers have corn syrup in them, and we really try and avoid corn syrup. First off, a proper radler is just beer and juice.
Correct, yeah.
So some of it is the propriety of it, and some of it is just avoiding certain ingredients sometimes.
Yeah. No, if you ever have a question with some of our stuff, honestly, like send us a note and.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And I mean, generally on your beers, I expect it's water, malt, hops, like it's the basics, right? Like
yeah.
Unless you're doing something way out there.
Yeah. So this one here, there's no corn syrup, but the rest of fermentables is from dextrose. So.
Fair. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
No worries.
Katie's going to take me back to the questions I was going to ask. And that goes back to, you recently updated the label on Fickle Mistress.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious about the design and marketing concept behind doing that type of an upgrade.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it was like it was done on purpose. We were kind of looking at the labels and saying like, no, they don't like, some of them are cool and different, but they all really like, if you picked up the can, you wouldn't know that it was I mean, most people would know because most of the cans are purchased at Block 3, but like if you someone else randomly picked it up, you would know that was a Block 3 can, right? So we're trying to think of ways to do that. So I think you're going to kind of see this, and even this year, like this, we've kind of changed it since we started with this one, but like the logo up top, the writing, and then like just a different color identifier, and then an image in the background kind of thing. So the Fickle, we have so the guy who designs our labels is the creative director at Corey, which is like a marketing place right next door to us. And he lives in town, so he saw this piece of graffiti around and thought it'd be cool to put on the Fickle Mistress labels. So we're just like, oh, it's fine. Just if that's what you think's cool, then you're the marketing guy. Go for it.
And there you've answered her second question. Who does the design work?
Yeah.
Philosophical question for you. What do you want all of us to take away from this chat tonight?
Yeah, I mean, I think we tried 4 different beers here, and I think there's beer for everyone, right? If you try something you don't like it, maybe don't stay away from that style. Go try someone else's style or interpretation of that style. And I mean, beer's just meant to be enjoyed. It's meant to be enjoyed with friends, even if it's over video. But yeah, I think just have fun with it.
And you got a thumbs up from Katie on the IPA, and I know this personally. She is not an IPA drinker. Wow. She will try them.
That's good.
But it's not her cup of cake. And I have one final question for you, Graham. And this one I didn't throw at you last night because it hit me today. So, a young man, you start Block 3 brewing, then you turn around and you want to make a German style beer garden, and you used to do the village beer garden. You got a young family going, what's next for Graham?
I don't know. I mean, I think
Jen's got it. Sleep.
Yeah. Yeah. The 2.5-year-old's been waking up at 4:30 and 5 the last week or so, and he just wants to come and play at that hour, and it's please not. Go back to that. Stop climbing out of your crib. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's interesting because we had talked about earlier about like how some places, like some bars and restaurants might close down, further here. I think there's some, if you're innovative, and there's some interesting opportunities that may arise in the next year or two that become available. And I don't know, like it's from that, and that's on a business standpoint, I would say that. Personally, I just try to get those 2 animals growing up.
Okay. Katie's curious what the IBU is on So Long Summer.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, we very rarely measure IBUs anymore. I think a lot of people kind of go back, and it's probably go back to around the 7 or 8 years ago when people were trying to chase ultra bitter beers. There was like a chase to see who can make the most bitter beer, and they were attributing it to IBUs. And I don't think, like, if you look at some stouts, a stout would have like 100 to 120 IBUs, and it's like, I think it's just like it's just a calculate. The IBUs is a calculation of bitterness that's created, based on your ingredients. whereas people perceive bitterness totally differently. So what I perceive as bitter, bitter beer, Terry and Emma might perceive as super juicy and fruity, and not that, right? So we try to we were kind of trying to, I don't want to say avoid, I could give you the calculated IBUs on this, but it's really just a calculation. And if I said it was 60 and someone said that, oh, that's too bitter for me, I hate IBUs, it's like, well, just try the beer.
Yeah, well, you hit the nail on the head. Taste is a very individual thing. There's a whole science to taste, but it's still very individual. So,
apparently, they say that kids have better taste buds than adults. Because we
after the age of two. After the age of 2, yes.
Yeah. So it's funny because I took my 2. Well, he would have been 2 at this time. I took him to Arabella Park for French fries one day, and we're sitting there, and they make their own ketchup in-house. And he dips it, the fry in the ketchup, and he looks at me and goes, "That's not ketchup." I'm like, "Are you kidding me? Like, it tastes fine to me." But I mean, it was right. Like it's. And I was kind of blown away. I'm like, at 2 years old, he could tell the difference between this and the, store-bought ketchup that he's been putting on his whatever he wants to put it on.
Difference in sugar level.
Yeah, that's probably it.
But yeah, no. When I do the Scotch class, I talk to people about the fact that your taste is really developed between the ages of 2 and 5 by the foods you're exposed to by your parents. And then you never expand that until when you go off to university or college, or you move out of your parents' house, because then it's your willingness to try new things. And
yeah, it's
people,
like, oh, shawarma's cheap, so I'll grab one of those.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I make the rum balls that I do at Christmas time. This is years back when my brother-in-law's youngest was 5. And she came running into the house and was like, "Oh, chocolates!" and a handful of rum balls into her mouth, and spit them right back out.
There's one. I mean, yeah, it's like there's. I know you have your place in Nova Scotia, so I think you know, but like, I wish that garlic fingers with donair sauce were a thing here.
Yeah.
Like, I honestly think that we're missing out.
Yeah, we are. Graham, I want to thank you for taking time to be with us again. It's always enlightening when we have you on and have a conversation about beer and what's going on. We truly appreciate it. Thank you.
No worries.
You are welcome to stay. I am going to shut off the recording now.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I'm around. I just cracked this, so.
You know,